course, we have many freedoms here in America, don't we? We have the freedom to eat all the unhealthy junk foods we want and to talk and text on our cell phones all day and night. We have the freedom to watch TV, play video games, and sit on the internet 24/7, salivating over social network sites. We have the freedom to hang out in bars and nightclubs, partying until our heart desires. We have the freedom to be frivolous with our money and spend it on all the materialistic things there are. We have the freedom to go to the gym, get our hair and nails done every weekend if we wish. Some of us even have the freedom to take luxurious vacations to escape it all a few times a year. But can we be honest with ourselves? Are those truly freedoms or simple comforts and pleasures? Are these the freedoms our military are fighting and dying to protect? Are we slowly but surely being stripped of our true rights and freedoms as time marches on? Is our freedom of speech becoming further out of our reach, as well as our right to assemble in peaceful protests without the law hovering around telling us to move along or imposing limitations on us? Can we even constructively criticize our own government and country anymore in the hopes that our criticisms will serve as a nudge to see positive changes without being told we are terrorists or to leave the country we were born in if we don't like it by others who are too afraid to question authority? Is America vastly becoming one of the largest police states in the world, either from police being visible in our neighborhoods when not even necessary, by them having a presence in our schools, by us being recorded on cameras almost every step we take, having our personal phone calls listened to on a whim, and by having the abusive level of racial profiling we have? In accordance with the TSA, which stands for Transportation Security Administration, are we allowed to fly if we refuse inappropriate body groping or full body scans at airports, even if we want to protect ourselves from radiation?
And last month at the airport in Chattanooga, Tennessee, my 3-year-old daughter Mandy went from this happy little girl to this during an ordeal through security. My cell phone has about 17 seconds of this. Here, a TSA employee we've decided not to show is patting down Mandy while my wife holds her. First, they tried a handheld metal detector. Mandy was not in the mood. And the TSA employee, well, in my opinion, did not know how to communicate.
In order for American children to attend school, can we refuse vaccines for them if we're leery of the vaccines due to the rumors we hear about toxicity without getting into trouble with the law if we don't let them attend school in order to avoid the vaccines? Does this make homeschooling more appealing to most? If you are a farmer or an individual who grows fruits or vegetables in your own backyard, have you studied the Food Safety Modernization Act that was signed into law in January 2011 by President Obama to see the rights that have been lost or can be lost? Due to this act, there may come a day when farmers and individuals may be prohibited from growing their own organic foods anymore by law, leaving us not much of an alternative other than to eat processed fruits and vegetables and meats forced on us by corporations. Weren't we told that wars our soldiers are fighting abroad are to protect our freedoms, and our police are supposed to keep us safe here at home to protect our rights? Then isn't it ironic that our freedoms and rights have already been jeopardized internally, and far too many of our officers of the law have been abusing us, their authority, and in some cases even murdering our citizens from their excessive force? Who's going to protect us from those who are supposed to be protecting us? Though some of these new laws and acts are good as an ounce of prevention, Would it be naive of us to believe that our freedoms and rights changing this way are all 100% purely for our own good, safety, and betterment? Haven't some strategically been set into place and designed as a guise to control us even more? Didn't we leave our parents' nests so we can be adults and think for ourselves? Yet why do so many of us look to everyone else to tell us how to live, what to think, how to eat, and how we should even look? Yet, I ask this. In all the fairness in the world, though it does not excuse what they do to us, are the government and the elite really to blame? Or are we the people for believing we don't have the power to make a difference? Is it just the same as a toxic relationship in which a man or a woman is doing the other wrong? That they are only doing to you what you let them do and get away with? How many times have we been tested time and time again and said nothing and did nothing through all the injustices that we have been through? Is it too late? Is it much like the scenario of parents who never reprimanded their child for misbehaving at all? Then when the child reaches his teenage years and is now way out of control, they try their parental guidance? I say it's never too late. Has the American dream turned into a nightmare, one from which we cannot awaken? Have we ever been awake? Can we afford to continue to keep our heads buried in the sand and act as though nothing is going on? I was born here, and I love the idea of what America has the potential to be, and would love to see it be what people outside of America truly be what they thought it was. A country to be loved, respected, and admired, not hated and feared, because fear breeds contempt. Not living in confinement and being ruled over like we don't have a thought of our own.
A new bill quietly introduced by Congress last week is causing quite a stir among civil liberties groups. The brainchild of Senators John McCain and Joe Lieberman. The bill would give the U.S. government the power to indefinitely detain terror suspects without charge or trial and to interrogate them for their quote-unquote intelligence value. And it doesn't make a distinction between U.S. citizens and non-citizens. So does this sound kind of scary to you? Well, joining us now to talk about that is RT's Lucy Kavanaugh. Lucy, hello. So, some concerns. I mean, this is kind of a no-duh question, I guess, but there are some concerns, and what are the concerns here?
Yeah, well, I mean, people see this as yet another example of overreaction by the government in the name of national security. I mean, the frightening thing about this legislation is that it effectively gives the U.S. military the right to detain American citizens in the name of national security with absolutely no recourse to correct the situation if someone was, for example, detained in error. The bill is worded so broadly that it basically could, throw you or I or anyone into jail for being perceived as the war on terror. And it doesn't really set any limits in terms of who makes the decision about that perception. And so, if, say, we speak out really strongly against the government and it's somehow perceived as being a threat to the United States, we can see ourselves locked up, held by the military, interrogated, held indefinitely, and all without a basic right to, an attorney or a public trial, and etc. It also begs the question of what happens when you detain someone in error, and also what happens, what mechanisms are in place to prevent this from being politically used in a politicized sort of way. I mean, could we see this legislation used to stifle dissent? I mean, Tea Partiers often say fairly critical things of the U.S. government. In its extreme, could we see this legislation used as something to stifle that kind of dissent? What about 9/11 truthers? What about anti-war protesters? And so, the question is limits and oversight, and this legislation, unfortunately, doesn't set any limits.
And now, another thing that's happened is the police have been militarized by the federal government. They're now issued with military-type weapons, and they've been trained to view the public as an enemy. they see the public not as something they protect, but as an enemy that needs to be suppressed and dealt with. And so they're very quick to use violence. They're very quick to take offense if you don't instantly kowtow to them and act like a very servile person. And even if you do, you can be seriously injured, even shot.
You stop me. You're abusing your power. Here's your justice at work.
Stand up, stand up, stand up.
Fuck off.
You just shot up. You just
Stand up.
Stand up or you'll be paid again.
Stand up. Get up. Get up. Stand up.
Don't do that.
Stand
Get
up.
up or you get paid again.
No.
Get up. Stand up. Get up.
No.
Get up. Up. Stand up. Back up. All right, come down. Get up. Get up.
Come on, this way. Meet Brian Sterner, who broke his neck almost 14 years ago and is a quadriplegic. But watch what happens when Sterner, who can drive and was arrested on a traffic violation, gets to the Orient Road Jail.
And this deputy, Marcia, you know, she looked at me and she didn't believe that I was a quadriplegic, I guess. And she walked behind me with those handles on the back of that hospital-grade wheelchair and just dumped it straight forward.
Sterner says he tried to roll as he was going down, but hit so hard he thought he had broken 2 ribs. Then when he was on the floor, deputies frisked him and tried to get him back into the chair.
But with a strong police presence. Minutes later, she took another rubber bullet on her forehead as she crouched behind her homemade sign that read, "Fear totalitarianism."
I was cowering with a poster behind me, but my fingers were in front of the poster. I believe they thought that my face would have reasonably concluded that my face was behind that poster.
The good news about being able to watch you guys live on TV is that lady with the red dress. I don't know who got her, but when it went through the sun, it hit her smack dab in the eye.
They held candles high at a vigil for 7-year-old Ayanna Stanley Jones as her mom and dad held on to each other.
I'll never be the same. That's my only daughter. I can never, ever get her back.
Little Ayanna died early this morning while asleep on the couch in the living room. It happened during a police raid when an officer's gun went off.
I'm not against the police, but be right when you do something. Just be right.